Hey everybody, we're doing an in-depth look at the RCD-330 Plus from AliExpress or Amazon. This is a Mark V GTI, and we're just going to do a quick in-depth look as to the features, how responsive the system is, and whether or not it's worth the money. First things first, you can get this on Amazon for about $280 shipped to your house, or you can purchase it through AliExpress for about $170 shipped, and that's a 3-day shipping, which I recommend because I believe the Amazon sellers are drop shippers, just processing orders through AliExpress. And we're going to show you how to install this as well as soon as we're just done with the in-depth review. The installation will be following immediately. Going through the app drawer, these are all the apps that I have that are compatible with Apple Carplay. They all work very well. Everything runs smooth. The only reason I'm not going to go through each app individually is because I'm using the phone to display the Apple Carplay that I am to record. So it's if I press any of the apps, it'll remove the recording, and that will obviously go against what we're trying to accomplish here. Overall, it works great. The volume controls on your steering wheel still work with the radio. You have manual controls here for the volume, manual controls for the apps here, and radio functions still work. Media is in case you have an auxiliary or an SD card or an iPod plugged in. Phone is it for the Bluetooth. Setup is obviously the setup, and the app drawer is the app drawer. If you are recording and you press the app drawer, you will have to disconnect your phone and reconnect it. But it operates incredibly well. I'm very happy with the purchase. Now, I did purchase this from Amazon. I shelled out the $282, but I will be returning this unit and repurchasing it from AliExpress to get that savings, because it's not worth paying an extra $80 that I can use for something else. So definitely check the link below to get your hands on this unit through AliExpress. Choose the 3-day shipping, and you will save $70 or $80 depending on where you're located globally, versus purchasing it on Amazon. You won't be disappointed. I highly recommend it. It comes with the adapters for the backup camera that you're going to need, and it is it's a really, really awesome system. I love it. I'm very happy with it. And here's how to install it. Once out of the packaging, this is what the radio looks like. It's got some serial number stuff. You have this connection and your standard antenna connection. It's missing all the other ones, but obviously you don't need the Sirius XM and all that stuff, because this is Apple CarPlay capable, and you can just stream everything. So now let's go put it in the car. Before we put this in the car, I just wanted to give you a comparison to the finish of the original radio, the new radio. The screen on this one looks a little bit bigger than it does here. Yeah, this is just so you can see the difference. Obviously this is a full unit, whereas this is just that. So the tools you're going to need for this task, it should take approximately 10, maybe 15 minutes to complete, are a trim removal tool, as you just saw, and a T20 screwdriver or bit on a ratchet, as I chose to use here. You're going to get those 2 screws undone, obviously turn counterclockwise, and get them completely unseated. You don't have to remove them from the tray, you can just leave them there. When removing the tray, use the trim removal tool to pry just above the hazard button. That way you get you unseat the tray properly. There's a connection that you can choose to disconnect or leave connected. on the climate control, which I'm about to show you. Right there. You can choose to keep it or disconnect it. I set the phone down to try and disconnect it, failed miserably, and picked the phone back up and just decided to set it aside. Once you have that set aside, there are 2 more T20 bolts at the top of this plastic trim piece that you have to unscrew. Take 5 seconds to unscrew those, and then pull that trim piece off the car. You can see it's the 192,000 mile Golf there, GTI. So undo those 2 screws, pull them off, set them in that tray that you took off the top. Once you take off this plastic piece, it will reveal the remainder of the radio, all the screws holding the radio on, which are also 4 T20 screws. You want to undo these guys, all 4 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you can pull the radio out and disconnect your cables. So pry on the radio, just pull. It'll be a lot easier with 2 hands, I promise you. And just pull that radio right out, set it into your lap, and undo the connections. Mine has a couple of extra connections that you may not have, because I had an auxiliary cord installed, and the satellite radio module installed as well. I just never activated my satellite radio because it's too expensive. So here is the removal. There's a tab on this blue one that you have to press in like that and pull out. Then on these 2 cables, there's that white tab that you just lift up with your fingernail while they're on there, and you just pry them upwards, up and off. This tab, if you have an auxiliary cord, it's like a little pull thingy. You just lift it, and the same thing with this one as well. You have to lift up from the bottom because it has to go over that little tab. It's really simple. I just made it seem a little overcomplicated. This is how the mechanism works. You just push that and lift up, and voila, you're good. You're all set. The installation is essentially the reverse of the removal. We'll go over it really quick. You're gonna want to use this adapter that you don't really need to use. You can just install it directly to the cable. Install the cable directly to the radio. Stick the radio back in there. Turn on the car just to make sure you have power to the radio. Everything works as it should. There is the startup. Connect your phone to it. Make sure it boots up in Apple Carplay and that all is well with the world. Go through the settings, adjust the brightness if you need to. If you can't see, I had to when I first got the radio. I had to set it to brighter mode. There's also one more above that. It's called brightest. Next, we're going to reinstall the radio. I got rid of this satellite module because it's garbage. I don't need it. And it freed up some space for me to cram the radio back into my my head unit. Put the radio screws, all 4 radio screws, back in first before you do the trim piece. So there's the 4 radio screws. Stick that trim piece on there. Make sure it's in place. Attach the 2 trim piece screws to the upper left and upper right corners of this trim piece. You can use your hand or you can use the tool. I like to start them by hand because I'm a handy gentleman. And just get them nice and snug with your T20 bit or screwdriver, T20 screwdriver. Get those bolts in there nice and snugly. There we go. Get your climate control and hazard button thing back in there. Make sure it fits. Make sure you get these 2 tabs where they belong. They have to go underneath that trim piece. They go into it. You know, push down on it. It'll seat nicely. It goes right into place. Make sure your hazards work. You didn't sever a connection. Then grab your tray. Now make sure you put your tray in the right way. You want to, there you go. You want to make sure those tabs go underneath and that one in the middle as well. I realized my mistake in a couple of seconds. And lift this thing back up and redo it. And all is good. We're in business. Pull out the 2 screws. Put the 2 screws back in. Get them nice and tight with my T20 bit. Torque those down to 2 inch-pounds. Just kidding, I don't think there's torque specs for these. Grab your tray cover. Throw that on there. Grab your charcoal bag. Slap that up there. Get your keys. Stick those in the ignition. Turn it on, make sure the radio still works and that you did a good job. Push some buttons. Make sure the buttons are responsive. Everything is good. Turn that dial. When you're done with that dial, make sure you turn it the proper way and the power symbol is sticking straight up. And from that point forward, use your steering control buttons. You can set stations by pressing and holding. And here is video of the Apple CarPlay in work.